I recently had a conversation with a guy friend of mine. Essentially, the role of a helpmate, just basically somebody that helps you to be better, do better. He thinks like, why do I even want to be with somebody? Why don't I just continue just kicking it with people? And honestly, when he first posed that question to me, I'm like, well, shoot, you're a fully functioning adult human being. You actually don't need that. But I want a partner. I want somebody to do life with. I got my reasons. But I was like, if you feel like you're fine by yourself, I can't tell you why. But in this podcast, they were talking about the way that in marriage, not just marriage relationships, but any relationship where you are stuck with somebody and forced to kind of grow in order to mitigate your personalities, it forces you to grow in a way that you just won't when you are single. Most people don't have the discipline to seek out that kind of friction that causes them to level up. I will say, if you don't want that, then it's still of no value to you. Quite honestly, if you feel that way, then you actually don't need a partner. You're actually gonna make it worse because maybe they're open to change and growth, but they're not all like, come here, give it to me. They'll change and grow as needed, but they're not like excited about it. Hello guys, how are you? I'm feeling jazzy. First of all, let me just say, especially for those of y'all just listening by audio, I truly apologize for whatever the fuck my voice sounds like right now. Barry White's little sister, whatever. So yeah, half of my voice is free, but the other half is still in captivity because my daughter's in daycare. And any parents that have children or have had children go through the daycare experience, y'all know just what the fuck I'm talking about. This foolishness, this scam that we have all signed up for of, I don't know, basically wrecking our children, wrecking us while paying them to do it. So I'm going to go on a whole little rant on that, but I want to let y'all know how good I'm feeling, y'all. And it's crazy because this week has been pure hell. But I'm divorced, y'all. I am free in these streets. And to top it off, because, again, I never wanted this divorce. Or I didn't initially, at least. And it's been a terrible process. And I was still scared at the end once it was like written on the dotted line, because I wasn't sure how things were going to be between my ex and I going forward. And I am so incredibly, I don't know, lucky, fortunate, blessed, just fucking happy. My ex is acting like he has sense, y'all. We are actually low-key getting along. Now, we ain't ha-ha and kikin, but just the business about my daughter, we're doing it together. We are co-parenting well, y'all. And I think that it's a little hard for me to truly revel fully, because I'm like, it can't have been as simple as signing on the dotted line, y'all. It can't have all the bullshit that he's dragged me through this entire time. It can't have all just flipped the damn switch and said, you know what? I'm gonna stop fucking with her. But anyways, I feel good, y'all. I feel great, except for the fact that my body is absolutely shutting down. So let me tell y'all how this. So my daughter, I've just re-enrolled her in daycare, and she started last week, y'all. After 2 days of daycare, she has come back sick, which I expected. She was in daycare previously for a few months, and it was just like this. Everybody told you, girl, hey, just get ready. She gonna be sick for her first year of daycare, period. I've since gone back to the pediatrician, and they done changed up the game, talking about 2 years. Every month for the next 2 years, expect her to probably be sick at some point. That's bullshit, but also it's very real. And this time, she's gotten sick before. and to the point of needing antibiotics. And I've also gotten sick from her before. But this time, it's a whole, like, it's just been out of control. I have literally, well, both she and I, because she's going through it too. Baby girl is going through it, which means I'm going through it doubly by having what she has and having to also tend to her and myself, which means really just tending to her because ain't no more space to take care of myself. So I'm awake longer than I usually have to be to make sure that she's okay overnight, doing the day watch and the night watch is tough, because my body actually needs more rest than a regular day. And so I'm not getting it. So I not only had what she had, but I got a little bit extra on the side because, hey, your girl ain't even getting sleep to try to heal. So ear infection, throat infection, eye infection. Y'all, otitis, that's the ear. Laryngitis, that's my throat, my voice box. Conjunctivitis, motherfucking pink eye, my boy. I feel like I'm a 12-year-old because all those things are things that you get. Well, mine is the laryngitis. That happens a little bit more frequently. But all those pink eye, bitch, that is literally a disease or an affliction for teenagers, for adolescent children. And because when I enrolled my daughter in daycare, apparently I wrote my ass up in there. So apparently I've been licking tables and sharing snot boogers with 2-year-olds as well because I am afflicted just as one. My daughter didn't get the pink eye, thank God. And hopefully I did my best to be careful and make sure I didn't, but you never know. But hopefully she hasn't. But yeah, so couldn't hear, see, or talk this past week. I am just now getting to the point where, enough antibiotics is flowing through my system that I'm no longer, contagious. And I no longer have shit literally oozing out of my eyeballs, y'all. Disgusting. Awful. All I could think of was, was it Pink Eye Pete from what cartoon was it? Like Hey Arnold or something like that, where the boy just was walking around with a big ass pink eye. Oh, it was like chronically pink and oozing and just like, that's what the fuck it was. That was the cartoon version of the absolute reality. And although I guess I should know that, I don't know why I don't be knowing these things. Because in my mind, I'm thinking just pink eye is just the pinkness of the eye. Once my eye was like crusted shut when I woke up, y'all, it was a whole other story. Thank God for doctors on demand. Thank God for them being able to call in a prescription at 3:00 in the morning and we pick that shit up as soon as possible to hurry up and rid myself of this damn affliction. But yeah, it has been a hell of a week, and through it all, y'all, I feel good in spirit. The rest of me fucked up, but in spirit, I feel great. But yeah, that's not what I'm here to talk about today. To be honest, I kind of just want to do a bit of a rant, if you can't already tell. So I guess it's probably a good place to go ahead and introduce myself. Hey guys, welcome back to Lex Talk. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Alexis. And the purpose of this channel is to have real conversations about life, love, and relationships. Because I believe that if we talk about our truths openly and honestly, we can see how many of us actually are closer than we think. We have a lot of the same experiences or similar experiences. We're not as fucked up as others would like to have us believe. Because most of the time it's just because people don't talk about what they're going through that we think that we're the only ones going through it, only ones dealing with it. And that simply is not it. And one of the worst feelings in the world to me, there's plenty of worse feelings, but a terrible feeling to me is going through something in life and feeling like I'm the only one that is failing at this shit. And truthfully, that's a very shared experience. It's part of the process of most things that we deal with in life. It just takes growth. It takes experience. It takes maturation. And if we're honest about it, we all go through it. Anyways, if you are new to this channel, the big news of the last episode is I have been going through a 2-year-long god-awful divorce process, and it was finally finalized a couple weeks ago. I was the respondent, meaning I wasn't the one that initially wanted the divorce, but I was drugged. I was pulled through the mud on the way out, and like kicking and screaming, having to fight this horrendous fight to get out of it. And I came out of it mostly unscathed. I was scathed through the process. Definitely I learned a lot. But at this point, I feel whole. And I was just sitting in the car, y'all, thinking, I really like myself. Like and not that I ever thought, I mean, if you don't know, I'm not very like insecure. I'm pretty confident in who I am, always have been, and I'm grateful to my parents. I'm grateful to my personality for just having to be that way off that. But through all the growth that I have gone through, not just in these past 2 years, but just as a person, I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts, Belief in Fatherhood. Oh, actually, Belief in Fatherhood is one of my favorite podcasts, but him and his wife, their joint podcast called How Married Are You? I was just listening to it, and they were having this amazing conversation about helpmates and how, wives are helpmates, but they also talk about how husbands are helpmates, but essentially the role of a helpmate in your life when you choose to get married to someone, and how that person is basically someone that helps you to achieve, your goals, helps you do better by providing you with, resources or support in some kind of way. Just basically somebody that helps you to be better, do better. And it's funny because I recently had a conversation with a guy friend of mine, and we talk about like all the stuff that we be going through in this dating process and how crazy it be. And sometimes, and he thinks like, why do I even want, to be with somebody? Why don't I just, continue just kicking it with people? Which, I've had that thought many times. But I was like, I know I want a man. I want a partner. I want somebody to do life with. I want somebody to wake up next to share my good days, my bad days, someone that I feel is actually invested in my well-being and I in theirs, and all of those. I got my reasons. But I was like, nigga, if you feel like you fine by yourself, then shit, I can't tell you why. But in this podcast, they were talking about the way that, Belief was talking about when he's talking to other guys and they're saying the same thing, and he in his mind is like, I see all the ways that that you could benefit from having a partner, and basically what he was getting at was, in a marriage relationship, and not just marriage relationships, but any relationship where you are stuck with somebody and forced to kind of grow in order to mitigate your two personalities, it forces you to grow in a way that you just won't when you are single. Most people don't have the discipline to seek out that kind of friction that causes them to level up. And that is, by my God, that is so true. And I will say that still doesn't mean that, like my guy friend, if you don't want that, then it's still of no value to you. I think that's for people like me that feel a desire to constantly evolve into or closer to the best version of themselves. If you find where you at, then you good. And there really is no need for any further conversation. And honestly, quite honestly, if you feel that way, then you actually don't need a partner. You're actually gonna make it worse because that personality is a little bit more resistant to change and growth. Not all the time. I won't say that across the board, because maybe they're open to change and growth, but they're not all like, come here, give it to me. They'll change and grow as needed, but they're not like excited about it. Whereas as hard as that change and growth is, for me, I just want to be the best at being a person, being a human being. And so it really does energize me to be able to be better, to get better, to recognize a place in my life that I am not good, not great at. And I'm not talking about skills I'm talking about interpersonal skills. To me, being a good human being, being able to practice morality, integrity, and exercise my values at all times is paramount to me. And so yeah, I guess that's something that I would now answer if somebody were to say, like, what's the point of it? Like, what is it? What good is it to me? Because a lot of times, and honestly, when he first posed that question to me, I'm like, well, shoot, you can cook for yourself. You can take care of yourself. You don't need anybody to do those things for you. You're a fully functioning human being, adult human being. You actually don't need that. And it's not that I think that I'm not. I just want help doing it. To me, it's exhausting having to make the world go round on my own. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that I know what it's like to be in a partnership where you don't have to do that. And I'm a woman that has leaned on that. I think, again, guys, even if they might be in partnerships, they may not have that same freedom that women tend to have of feeling like we're actually doing this together. They may still feel like they're doing it largely on their own. But yeah, I've had the experience of being able to join forces and be a goddamn, power couple or whatever they want to call it. And this single life ain't for me. It ain't fun. It's stupid. It's quite honestly real stupid. So, but more than just the being able to join forces, like financially and like literally just like logistically, it's easy when you have two people to do the same job, whether it's washing dishes, making doctor's appointments, what's it called, signing up for insurance or going through insurance plan. Like having two people to tackle that same connected or collective goal. Yes, sign me up, please. But not that I can't do it. Like I'm literally having to do it. I'm doing it on my own. I can take care of myself. But I choose not. I choose not to. That would be my choice. Not do it by myself for 500, Alex. And so, yeah, I understand that I can still do those things by myself, but to me, it's a choice to partner with somebody. But even without that, because there's part of me that I'm not looking for somebody to retire me, at least not today, because I still want to be active and make that contribution to the world that I'm making. But even if I wasn't looking for somebody to do that, I believe that the part about becoming a better human being is also still pretty valid for me to see the benefits of a marriage or a long-term partnership. And anyway, so I just wanted to put that out there because I have been like, girl, you is awesome. I really do think I'm such a great catch. When I don't sound like Barry White's sister. I am disease-ridden, y'all. I mean, I'm okay, but I'm all like, I am afflicted. I literally can't even hear myself talk out of my left ear still. And so, I'm just slightly better. Like I'm on the road to getting better. I don't feel like I'm not all congested, although in my head, I sound like I'm underwater. I don't know. Maybe I sound like that to you guys too. I guess I'll be able to understand when I hear it back. But anyways, I feel like an amazing human being. And not because of all the things that I do well, but the things that I don't do well, I do believe I am pretty objective at hearing people out and understanding. Now, what I will say is where I run into the most trouble, where I find myself getting out of character or being seen as difficult, is when I am dealing with people that are basically underdeveloped. Let me not say that because I'm really being a bitch saying that. But some people that don't have the same objective level of understanding. And I don't even know how to identify this person off the bat, but I know once I'm talking to them whether or not it's going to have that same effect. And that's not to say that there are some people that it is difficult for me to hear their heart, their soul. Definitely when I listen to all this, like, I don't know, is it red pill community? Is that what it's called? Whatever, when niggas be saying shit that women don't want to hear. Yes, it is difficult for me to hear a lot of those things, but I do have the ability to kind of sit down and talk to a guy that speaks that way. If the lines of communication are truly open. We can both get passionate, both get heated, but it never gets to the point where the emotions are spilling over, at least in the actual argument. Keep the main thing the main thing. And if you don't have facts to back it up, don't be just spewing bullshit kind of thing. And so I recently recognized that in some of my relationships, like, I'm always going to seem difficult when you don't actually know words and have the ability to, like, I don't know, just process thoughts. So I was listening to, I don't even know, something that I had to unsubscribe to because I was like, you getting me hot and bothered over some bullshit ass argument. But what they posted was, in response to a lot of women saying things like, it takes the right man to bring out the feminine energy in me or whatever. And there's a lot of shit stacked in that statement that I'll address as well. But first, I guess the comment, which was the reverse of that, was, it takes the right woman to bring out my masculine energy or something like that. And they were basically saying, like, how weird is that to hear a man say? And basically saying that, a woman, if she ain't feminine, blah, 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 blah. And at first I was just thoroughly annoyed. And then I realized, you know what? I can't speak for all women because I know there are some women out there that mean exactly what they're talking about, that are saying, like, you need to make me feminine. You need to do this, blah, blah, blah. And I think that they deserve the same energy that they're getting from this comment. But on the other hand, I would like to suppose a different perspective, that is my perspective, with the understanding that there are probably not a lot of other women that think like I do. And even if not, it's just to put out there into the zeitgeist, not every woman means what you are thinking they mean when they say those exact words. So in my case, because I do understand the thought, and I do feel that way. I do feel that in the right relationship, my level of, I guess, living in the soft life, as they term it, changes. It's based on the freedom that I have to rest in that softness or femininity. There's a lot of things that may be right or wrong with that, because I don't feel like femininity is based on those qualities. Like, I'm a woman, period. But I understand the general consensus of feminine versus masculine. And that's what we're talking to here, I guess. And so I feel like I have the ability to be, I have masculine qualities and I have feminine qualities, period. I think all of us do. And how much you operate in them varies per person. And so I think that you can both exude feminine qualities, but also have to operate in a more masculine way because of the world's requirements. And this is what I mean. So it's weird, because why is going to work, paying bills considered masculine? Bitch, I don't know. Because it is. Because the man traditionally, in the most, basic sense, is supposed to provide, while the woman nurtures and takes care of home. Believe that or not believe that, that's what people are usually debating when they're talking about the masculine and the feminine and stuff like that. And so I think when a woman is saying that, or at least for me, if I were to be saying this statement, it takes a certain man to be able to bring out those feminine qualities in me. That means if I have to, like right now, I'm single. That means I need to go and work. I gotta be the hunter-gatherer and the nurturer, or whatever, and homemaker. And so I have to operate with a higher level of masculinity in order to protect and provide for mine, because it's just me. And so I need to, and it's also quite dangerous for me to not exercise the masculinity that I can exude in doing those things. Meaning, if it's only me providing for this household, I need to go out there and get it. Not just get the bag, but I need to like maintain the bag. I need to fight for the bag. I need to try and get a bigger bag, or whatever that might mean to maintain stability in my household. And when I don't do that, when I shy away from those things, in a way that is most typical for a woman or for the feminine energy, that is to the detriment of my household. And so if I am with a man, then if I get a guy, God willing, a man walks up to me and is wanting to be a partner with me, come together with me, if that man, which this is not my lot, if that man is not able to take that load away from me, then I still have to do it, which means I'm still going to operate with a certain level of masculine energy. I'm still going to be out here aggressively pursuing financial success, which may or may not be at odds with his place in our relationship as he sees it. And that doesn't mean that has to be disrespectful. That doesn't mean that can't be feminine. But inherently, those qualities are typically seen as more masculine than feminine. I think in today's generation, there are a lot more women that are operating in both energies a little bit more than in the past, because women are in the workforce. Women are also expected, y'all, don't at me, are also expected to do the household things, be the homemakers, be the caretakers and stuff like that. Men are stepping up as well. Men are cooking, men are raising children, men are being present in their children's lives and all of that stuff. But we still have the defaulters, I guess, to the role, or what's expected. That flip-flops and switches. That flip-flops and switches all throughout households, because that is today's world. And again, once women were having to step into the workforce more, the lines just became a lot more blurred. And do whatever works in your relationship, but we understand what the cultural, I guess, quote unquote, norms are. And so women are having to do both. But I do believe that just because she's having to go out there and do those things doesn't mean that she has to be, that don't mean she pushing no nigga around. That don't mean she bullying a nigga, saying, I bring home the bacon too. No, whatever. No, I don't think that needs to be the case. And that's definitely not what I'm talking about bringing to the table. I have never not worked, and also never made or demeaned my partner or boyfriend or husband or whatever for being a man. Like, I still want you to go and cut the grass. I still want you to, wrap your arms around me and make me feel small. Like, I still can exude those desires of a woman, have that feminine energy, and, support you in your more masculine energy in the ways, because the dynamic is more than financial provision. The dynamic is more than, nurturing or like cooking meals. Like, it's about like your presence, the spirit that you have in you. And that's for men and women. A man can make less than me and still have a presence about him that makes me feel safe and secure. A woman can be out there working and still make a man feel manly, in his own right. And so I just really think that the statement, the argument is dumb as fuck. And it's also not helpful. I hate it when it's like, oh, well, since you need this, well, I need this. That's stupid. No, how about instead of just throwing it back, take the time to understand what she might be saying. And same thing for women. Instead of just being so offended that you're not able to have a conversation, take the time to sit and, because we know that we speak two different languages. We know that what comes out of a woman's mouth is heard differently going into a man's ears, and vice versa. When y'all speak, y'all mean this, we hear this, and shit gets lost in translation. Don't waste your time at the surface arguing over what ain't what the other person meant. Ask the questions. Ask the necessary questions to understand what the other person is saying. Let's just start there. Let's start with the understanding that we don't know what the fuck each other is saying. All right? Now that we're here, let's ask the right questions to help make it clear, to get us on the same page or as close to it as possible, instead of just attacking each other. Because at the end of the day, don't we both want each other in some capacity? It's not many people that make you change by telling you you're terrible, I hate everything that you stand for. Usually it's somebody's like, I see where you're coming from with that. Hey, what if we looked at it from this perspective? Like, ultimately, if I'm looking for men to understand me or to be more agreeable to me and I with them, attacking them is probably not the best way to go about it. I don't know, and y'all hate it when a woman does that. Like, so I don't know why it seems any better coming from a man to a woman. Like, at the end of the day, we both trying to get with each other. Why can't we all just get along? Can't we all just try a different approach to this? Anyways, all right. So that's all I want to say on this. Then I think I will briefly touch on Love is Blind. I say briefly because I really have no desire to go through all of the drama that ensued in the season. Because for me, y'all, I say I don't hold grudges. Out of sight, out of fucking mind. That was last week, y'all. I'm off that. But no, what I like to do, like what I feel like I did partially when I talked about the last season with Kamoy, is I like to point out the different things that I see in relationships that are kind of good lessons learned. Like, what are the things that I learned watching the couples, or what are the things that I've learned and saw in the couples that I want to address, per se. And so let's see. I'll just go through each one to see if it can drum up what my thoughts are on it. All right, the first one that I think I want to address, because I think this is one that probably hit me, that I felt the most, was Jackie, and Marshall. Out the gate, Jackie's terrible to me. But also their relationship was awful. And I absolutely hated their connection since the pods. There's two things. So first of all, their relationship is a bit triggering to me because I do recognize that dynamic, because that was similar to what I faced with my ex, although I was not Jacquelina. Let me get that straight. And I didn't see my ex in the way that Jacquelina saw her ex. I didn't see my ex as soft or gay or a bitch. I saw him as more emotionally leaning. And I said that many times. And my issue was, it is difficult for me to be with someone that is more emotionally leaning and requires a lot of affirmation. I think most people, most love languages is, if you have a love language, it's easiest for you to give that love language. You tend to love people the way that you want to be loved. The inverse of that is, it is difficult for me to love people in ways that I don't feel loved by. Like, it's a foreign concept to me. Like I said at the top of this, I've never been insecure. I'm very confident in who I am. And so I don't need verbal affirmation. I won't say that I don't like it. I do, like, I need to be clear where people stand, but I'm not somebody that needs to be lavished in positive affirmation. I do like it. Like, at some level, all of us like every single love language, but there's just hierarchies. And words of affirmation is very low on my hierarchy of love languages. And so it is difficult for me to give that, just because it makes no sense in my mind. And I can say it out loud and understand it, but processing it in my mind in real time, it doesn't work as simply. It is very difficult for me to say, like, oh, you don't know this about yourself unless I say it. Oh, okay. To me, that's wild, but it's only wild because that's not how I feel loved. The same way somebody might feel like, oh, you need me to be here every single moment for you to know that I love you, because I'm quality time. So I can understand it from that, in that way. And that's how I often need to, that's how I'm often able to empathize or sympathize with the situation, is when I compare it to an emotion that I feel. I'm like, oh, so you feel this the same way that I feel this when this happens to me. That's how I'm able to kind of identify with people in things that are kind of foreign to me. And so in this kind of dynamic where there's a guy that, especially because of the male female kind of way that we've been socialized. Traditionally, we expect the woman to be more emotional, which is something that we've realized as we've gotten older and evolved over time, how detrimental it is to continue or propagate that stereotype of men don't need to be emotional because women are, or women are emotional and men don't need to be. Because now we have a whole bunch of broken men that don't know how to deal with emotions, because emotions are a part of human beings. It's a part of humanity. It's just a matter of knowing how to manage them. It's called emotional intelligence. It's being able to have emotions, process them in a healthy way. That doesn't mean pretending that they don't exist, ignoring them. It also doesn't mean leading with them and going off on them. There's a balance between it, and it's called emotional intelligence. It's the management of those said emotions. So for me, because that's not my strong suit, is I guess leading with emotions. I lead with logic and I process my emotions through that lens, which for that very reason, there's a lot that my ex was able to bring to me, and by way of helping me to accept my emotions and offer them a little bit more. And that's something that I still have to work on, because it's just not the natural way that I am. But that being said, that is a difficult relationship for me. I can be in it, but it takes work. All relationships take work. So it wasn't like alarming to me. It's just, oh, this is the way that I'm going to have to work in this particular relationship, this particular dynamic. What really annoyed me about Jacquelina, well, there's a whole bunch of things, but one thing that annoyed me from the pods, I could tell that this dynamic wasn't about shit. It was extremely shallow. Their conversations didn't do anything. Although Marshall seems to have a lot of emotional intelligence, it feels like he's at a point in his life where he's just now accepting who he is as a very emotional male being. And he is, at least in the pods, it seemed like all he was looking for was for somebody to say that that's okay. It's okay to be that way. I love that you're this way, and validate him in that way. And that to me was triggering, because that was my marriage, and that was something that was very difficult for me. Call me what you want, but that is my truth. It was difficult for me to be the person opposite of Marshall and be like, yeah, baby, feel your feels. Not that I don't want people to feel their feels. I don't want people to think that I'm looking for a man that don't have feelings, because I absolutely want emotional intelligence. I myself have a difficulty with anyone being, hey, I'm feeling this way today. How are you? And I think I might be borderline being facetious, but that's the way that it comes off in my mind. To me, it's like I talk about my feelings more matter-of-factly, and that's kind of the way that I like to operate in my relationships. Like I tell you guys all the time, yeah, I feel shitty today. It sucks, this blah, blah, blah. But I don't want to sit and like hug my feelings with somebody. I don't know. It's just a weird thing that maybe I still need to just take the time to process. Maybe I'm not as emotionally intelligent as I think I am. But either way, it's a very difficult position for me to be in. But he seemed to just be wanting somebody to affirm his way of being that he has now accepted as himself. And he's very proud to be that way, which I absolutely think he should be. But I wish that he was able to get out of that for a little bit to recognize that Jacquelina wasn't the person. Like, she wasn't actually saying any words. It was just like, oh, that sounds awesome. Oh, that sounds awesome. But she didn't offer anything, any substance to say that she actually understood what he was saying, the full weight of it, and was ready to accept it. And I could tell almost immediately that she was not the type of woman that Marshall needed. She's shallow. She's empty. She had no unique thoughts to bring to the table. And Marshall was obviously a very high level thinker, like processing words. She was basic in the mind. basic in the mind. I don't even know how they had conversation. But you know what? I will preface this. It's not preface, but I will say we didn't get the full story of the pods. Maybe there was more depth to her that we just did not see. But the only depth that I saw was in Marshall, and she was just there. Everything that she said, from her like talking head confessionals to in the pods to her interactions, there was nothing deep about this woman. The deepest thing that I saw was what she didn't say, and that was her outburst in Mexico, where she had to run into the closet. That was like, oh, there's her story that she cannot verbalize or hasn't verbalized, and is more reactive to than responsive. And yes, she did verbalize. She did talk about there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. But she was very reactionary and didn't really use her words to like, hey, this is what I need. Hey, this is what I'm dealing with, or whatever. Like the way that she handled it was tough to watch. That being said, life be hard to deal with sometimes, and so I get it. But it's just basically saying she wasn't in a place to be receiving a partner. The same way that Marshall saw her, which he vocalized at a moment and then tried to retract, saw her as a project. Boy, ain't no retracting it. You absolutely saw her as a project, because she was a project. Because where she was not emotionally at the level that he was. She was experiencing emotions, but she didn't have the emotional intelligence to manage them and respond. She had the emotional intelligence of a 12-year-old that reacts to shit. And I think that's fine. But I wish that he saw that she was not what he needed. I wish that he saw that although he is very capable and well put together, he needs that in a partner. And you know what? This is me talking to myself, because I've done this too. You know, it's that idea in your mind that because you are at a certain place that you don't need your partner to be, because you can make up for their lack thereof. That's immature, because that's not how things work. You either are building each other up or somebody's tearing something down. Being unequally yoked in any capacity is dangerous and detrimental to yourself. Please understand that your project is only going to take from you. And this person that you're in relationship with is constantly attached to you. So that means they're either constantly taking, constantly giving, or it's more of a mutual kind of relationship going on. But these project relationships are constantly taking from you until such point that they're able to give back, which may or may not happen. Ever, my nigga, ever. And I think that as I'm over here chastising Marshall, I have absolutely done that same shit. And I think it's only recently that I was like, oh shit, you don't have what I need to give back to me. All you can do is take from me. And that is not sustainable. I wish Marshall saw that earlier. And so throughout their relationship, it just continued to devolve from that point. So basically everything that we saw from them from that point on was based on that relationship. She had absolutely nothing to offer him in the space that he was at that point. He could absolutely offer a whole lot to her. He could try to help her, mature emotionally. He could try to just make her better. He could be supportive for her because, all over the place. What I was originally trying to get at, one of the things that really bothered me about Jacquelina is she wanted Marshall to be something that she absolutely had none of. And I understand like wanting your partner to bring this other thing to the table, but for me and my ex, I'm not going to be like, nigga, why you so emotional? If I'm like emotional too, like she wants him to not be emotional when she is an emotional wreck, So for me, it wasn't that I wanted my ex to not be emotional. I wanted more management of those emotions. I don't want somebody that feels an emotion and immediately reacts without processing or whether or not that reaction is okay. Somebody that flies off the rails regularly because this emotion hit, so I'm going to punch a wall. This emotion hit, so I'm going to break this. This emotion hit, I'm going to do this because this is what feels right. you better find a punching bag. You need to find a healthy way to channel that emotion before you fuck something up that you can't undo. Jackie is an emotional wreck. That is what I mean by managing emotions. So although Marshall was extremely emotional, he managed his emotions. That is emotional intelligence. I still don't want his ass, but there's nothing wrong with the way that he emotes, you know? That's just a matter of whether it's your cup of tea or something like that. But he was leagues beyond where she is emotionally. And so it was so annoying for her to be like, man, you need to be a man. Bitch, you don't know what the fuck you need. You don't know what a man is. Shut the fuck up. Like, shut the fuck up. It was just really annoying to see her chastise him, somebody that is operating actually very well in his capacity. The problem is that's not the type of man that you ever wanted, but he told you exactly who he was. He was very clear about that. Hell, Josh was clear about that. Apparently, y'all had this whole discussion. He said, is that the type of man that you want? And in her mind, she's like, yeah, I want a man that is open and honest. No, you don't, boo-boo. You don't know what the fuck you want. Because if that was the case, you would have understood. I get it. It's tough. Like, you have a certain, like, machismo that you want in a man. And I get it, too, because I'm sitting here saying, like, Marshall wouldn't have been the guy that I wanted. But I would have known that immediately. The same way everybody else was able to see the person that Marshall was because he displays that openly and honestly. You can say, okay, yes, he's emotionally intelligent, yes, but do we connect in the way that we communicate? Is that good for me or not? Now, had I gotten to the place, say I didn't see any of the signs that he was this way, and then I get to the honeymoon and everything, those things would not have made me not go forward with Marshall. Why? Because Marshall is grown enough that we can have conversations and navigate those. Because again, there's always going to be something that you have to navigate in your partner that you just don't really care for, you know? And if that's the one thing, believe me, like the same way I was able to stay with my ex, and my ex to me wasn't Marshall. Like, and I don't mean it, but it is what it is. He didn't have the same level of emotional intelligence that Marshall had. And I was still willing to work through that because I was like, you know, I do have this, so I can try to help. But ultimately, that didn't work out. So maybe that's why, you know, it wasn't a good fit in that way. But I could have absolutely made a relationship work with Marshall. Even though that's not my cup of tea. There's a lot of shit that ain't my cup of tea. It's more like either I would have decided that at the beginning. I wouldn't go forward in building a relationship with him unless I was ready to go ahead and accept that part of him. Because that's one part of him. That doesn't make him a bad person or a bad partner. He's actually, I think, would be an amazing partner because the ability to communicate is most of the shit that you have to deal with. You know, if you have a disagreement or you're not on the same page, but you have the ability to communicate that, you're golden. You're golden. That's the best part. You know, I mean, of course, it doesn't solve everything. Sometimes you might be able to communicate that y'all ain't right for each other. But being able to communicate that means that y'all will still be able to have a healthy relationship, even if y'all aren't together, you know? And so I absolutely I fucking hated that. I hated that she made it seem like he was the one that was deficient when, in fact, it was her ass. Just because you don't like him doesn't make him gay, doesn't make him dumb, doesn't make him a bad partner, doesn't make him soft. He's actually just way more mature than you are. He actually just has his mind and his shit together, and you don't. And you're not ready for that. But the way that she treated him was pure garbage. But I do think that, you know, that's something that we all need to pay attention to, because I do tend to, you know, again, spotlight on me. I tend to go for a lot of, I tend to date a lot of Caribbean men. And this doesn't, let me not make y'all think that I'm going somewhere to say Caribbean men are soft or anything like that. It's actually the opposite. It's just that I found a lot of Caribbean men to have be a lot more in touch with their masculine and feminine side. Like, they're more like, maybe it's not even masculine and feminine side. They're like open and sensual in a way that I don't get from a lot of Black American men. Not to say that Black American men don't, but that's just why I ended up attracted to a lot of Caribbean men, because of the way that they present so sensually, I guess, which is just something that is more common culturally, of Caribbeans than it is Black American men, period. And so a lot of times it might be that I end up with somebody that is more emotionally leaning than, and it's not even leaning, presenting, than I am, or I might care for. And that has to do largely just with the personality type or who that person is. But then coupled with the culture, it might be something that's easier to exude. And so I have to, or I have had to, especially now on this journey since my ex, having to be real with what level of emotional display I'm actually comfortable with. And it's not just about what I receive, but also what they need, being able to say, I'm probably not the woman that's going to affirm you. I'm probably not the woman that's going to give you what you need to thrive. And that also, I don't want y'all to hear me saying that I can't affirm somebody. I can, but it's like, I think it has to do with my like honest directness, which isn't an excuse to be a bitch or anything. So when I am affirming somebody, I honestly believe it. And that means if I don't believe it, it is difficult for me to do, because it feels forced, and I feel like that forcedness is picked up on. Like, I don't hide my my feelings very well, my emotions very well. If I'm not feeling it, it's probably written all over my face. If I don't mean it, I don't say it. I tap dance around to a way that I can say something that I believe. I will not say something that I don't believe. And so it means that I need to be with somebody that I actually believe in that way. And not that I didn't believe in my ex, because I did. But the thing about being in a relationship with somebody, in much the same way that God knows every part of us, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the what the fuck, being in a relationship with somebody, in a marriage especially, you see all of them. And then you start to basically judge them based on the character that you know, their full character. And sometimes that is on par with what you always believed. And sometimes it ain't. And I think for my ex, the character that I think I started to see in him outside of the public eye started to filter. It started to become the lens through which I filtered his actions from then on. So I'd be like, is it or is it your ass kind of thing? Because you tend to, do this. So that made it difficult for me to provide the affirmation that he needed at the level that he needed. I could provide affirmation, but he needed a very high level because he was high level emotional, low level emotional intelligence. And that's the way that it shook out. And so, yeah, learning to assess whether or not I can be what this person needs and whether or not they can be what I need is necessary. So, Marshall, yeah, you dodged a bullet, but I would hope that you recognize that you shouldn't have been nowhere near that bullet in the first place. Nowhere near. I don't know what the other girls in the pods was talking about, but there's no reason that y'all should have made it to a place where you propose to this woman. Especially, like, this is Love is Blind. So you're going strictly off of that person's essence, their character, and everything else that they bring to the table. I don't know if it was just all hidden off camera and they edited all of that out, but I didn't hear anything that she brought to the table other than saying, "Aw, really? Aw, really?" I didn't hear no depth. And so for you, Marshall, to me, to be so mature and evolved as a human being and as a thinker, I don't know what you were thinking with. at that point. I don't know if you were just emotionally charged and just, oh man, this is love. I don't know what that was. In which case, that's definitely an area that you should probably seek to grow in. All right, so that's enough on them. Let me see. I guess Kwame and Chelsea. Is it Kwame now? I thought it was Kwame, but I guess it could be pronounced both ways. In Ghana, it was Kwame, but he said Kwame at times as well, so it ain't my name. Anyways, that's besides the point. I still, even at the reunion, I still very much found it difficult to see him being as invested in the relationship as she was. It was their relationship is very difficult for me to watch. And their relationship is, to me, what happens without chemistry. Low key is my ex and I, but not quite. So, but maybe. So there's this thing, like my ex and I had a lot of chemistry in the beginning. It was fun. It was exciting. But that's just what happens at the beginning of a relationship. Later, it was, we work well as adults. That's what I see with Kwame and Chelsea. We can make this work. We both have willing spirits. We can make it work. This to me is as sustainable as the people are. If both of them have that go-getter spirit and are reluctant to disappoint one another, they will stay married unhappily ever after. I feel like Chelsea will always be seeking to be closer to him. I feel like he will always be seeking to save face and maintain the illusion of his wildest dreams. But it does not seem like he is being honest with himself. It is not what he wants. Damn it. All this shit is triggering because this all feels very much like what I lived in my marriage. On paper, this was everything that they wanted. He wanted him, a white woman, a blonde white woman, to accept him and have on his arm and partner with. And she just wanted a husband. She wanted a husband that fit into her world, meaning you have a job. I am physically attracted to you. You have sense. This works. This works marriage. And that is unfortunate. I want no parts in this. I have experienced this. I have a make it work personality. What didn't allow my marriage to last is my ex didn't have that. And I don't necessarily think that that's what you have to have or that he should have it. I think when you choose to marry somebody, that is part of the deal. But sometimes you don't choose very well, and it sucks to have that attitude when you don't choose well, because again, you ride off unhappily ever after into the sunset. When in reality, I feel like Kwame, whatever the fuck, Alex, it would help if he was honest with himself. You know what? And I could be wrong. He could be madly in love and just doesn't show it in a way that is readily perceivable to the outside world, meaning me. But if that's what love looks like, I don't want that. I don't want that. That doesn't feel like chemistry. That feels like, well, is anything better out there? All right, well, this will work. That's what that feels like. It feels like the definition of settling. And again, the experiment puts that pressure on you of Love is Blind. But even without Love is Blind, I think all of us do this very often. And I'm not saying like, oh, you need to reach for the highest heights, but understand what actually are your like driving forces and kind of stay true to those. It shouldn't be no long list. It should be 2-3 tops. But you need to take the time to understand what those things are and recognize when you're not getting them. Don't. Because as soon as that, amazing moment of passion passes and that bullshit is fleeting, you're going to be left with the reality of the situation. And the reality is you knew better in that. You knew better in the first place. You didn't want to be here. And so I've noticed this for myself. Like, I've said this on this podcast, and I've said this to niggas' faces. Like, I enjoy conversation. Again, I sit here and talk to my damn self for, hours on end. I need a human being that at some level can do this with me. This is a big part of my spirit, of who I am. And if you cannot have conversation, if you cannot have healthy conversation, productive conversation, if you cannot inspire me with your words just as much as I can inspire you with mine, I'm going to feel a lack. Now, there are many things that I desire in a relationship or that I just desire in life. I'm not expecting my partner to provide me all of them or even a lot of them, but there are specific ones that I need. This is one of them. Connection through communication is big for me. That is truly the window to my soul. Nothing works if I can't talk to you, like it is always going to come up. It is always going to be a thing. And I have really tried to say, you know what? I get conversation all over the place. If that's not your thing, maybe I can work with it. It don't work. And maybe it could work if it wasn't me, like, meaning sometimes I think it's stuck in my head so much that I self-sabotage because I need this thing here. And so if it's not present, I'm gonna constantly be looking for it, looking to get it, desiring to get it. And although I can stay in that space without it, now that I have seen the promised land of what it's like to have it, I actually don't want to go without it, and so recognizing the things that mean a lot to you, because for me, that is chemistry. That is my chemistry with you. If we can have that kind of like banter, those conversations, I feel like you see me, and so recognizing what it is that truly moves you, moves your spirit, moves your soul. Be true to that. Find out what that is, identify it, stay true to it, because I think it does you both a disservice to pretend as though it's not a big thing. And yes, you can grow to love, we've seen arranged marriages all the time. You have to have the arranged marriage spirit for that to work. Both of you have to have the arranged marriage spirit for that to work. Both of you have to be able to say, you know what? This works, and I'm good with that. Period. If both of you don't have that, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't waste your time or theirs. All right, that's enough on them. Let me see. Bliss and Zach, I think that their compatibility is uncanny. Their awkwardness is so aligned so beautifully, like, period. And that's all really I want to say about them. I really, I don't give a fuck about any of this stuff, really. But I binge watched the season, last weekend and became invested for the past 4 or 5 days or whatever. Anyways, I think that they are a very good match, at least from what they have shown us. That doesn't mean everything in the relationship. I know that there's still hurdles that they'll have to face, and I'm interested to see how they will face them. But I do think that they have kindred fucking spirits. She is like the female version of him. He is the male version of her, and they are all like, but they're like a fucking yin and yang. Like, they have the same approach to life, same awkwardness, but she is absolutely the soft female version of him, and he is the more masculine version of her. But neither of them are too far on the extremes. I feel like they are a very, very good match. All right, Micah and Paul, I really don't give a fuck. I really don't. I don't. It didn't really feel like a whole heck of a lot of investment. Like, every time they said we love each other, I'm like, but why? Not because like they weren't good people, but like I didn't see anything that could be there outside of maybe a physical attraction. I didn't see how they connected mentally. I didn't see that chemistry. I felt like Paul has a very specific way of operating in the world, and Micah is willing to take on whatever man she feels is worthy of being her husband, and she's willing to adapt. But I didn't see any and I say adapt as in like, oh, well, that's what Paul likes. So, she still has, of course, her ways of wanting to live, like her standards. She's much more of like a, city girl type thing, where he's more like, earthy. Excuse me. He's more like earthy, but I really didn't see, I just didn't see any connection. I didn't see it, and I didn't like it from the beginning where where he was having where he had both of his connections. The way that they got engaged just seemed forced. I can't tell if Paul really felt like Michael was the one he wanted to be with, or he just hadn't had time to process it. And the way that Paul processes shit, I think he definitely needed more time. But I feel like he felt like he had to make that choice, and she basically gave him, it wasn't an ultimatum, but it was like, hey, all right, well, let's do this. So we're going to do this, right? So you're going to do it, right? You're going to do your part, right? I'm going to do my part. You're going to do your part, right, Paul? And he was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And he struggled with doing that. And it just felt so, it was like, hey, propose to me, okay? Okay. And not that anybody forced his hand. He had to say it, but it just seemed, it was very cringy. And I know that word's being overused now, but it was cringy to watch the whole process of them getting engaged. Because it seemed like it came out of the blue, where she was like, I want you to choose me. If you choose me, I'll choose you. All right, I'm gonna dump this other guy. It didn't seem like the organic way that a proposal would happen. So I don't know. I wasn't invested in their relationship. It also, even the logistics of where they were gonna live and how things were gonna work, it just didn't seem right. Oh, and I absolutely hated her. Everybody hated Shelby, but I hated Micah's response to Shelby's bullshit ass personality. And, Shelby treating Paul like crap, and her being upset at Paul for having the self-assuredness to be like, bitch, I don't give a fuck what you're saying. And her being, why would you say that to her? But not once did you give a damn about her treating him like shit in his goddamn face. What? It was backwards to me. And it's like her to be taken, it gave off the ugly friend that wants you to be miserable with her. Like, he's no good for you. Bitch. Like, she was hideous in mind, body, and spirit. Just, and for her to be taking direction from this girl as though she was like her mother. It was not that she would listen to her mother like that, but it's like, why are you listening to this bitch like that? Does it seem like she has your best interest at heart? And she's like, oh, it's because she's tired of me being hurt. Well, why don't you find out who the fuck this is before you decide to just tell her to leave him? Or why don't you say, hey, you know what? I think that you guys have something here, but I feel like maybe you should just find a way to do this outside of the process. Like, the idea of just getting married seems like too fast, but I do feel like it's something worth exploring. There's so many ways that she could do it. Other than the way that she did. It was ass backwards. And again, for Micah to sit there and listen to that and feel like, oh, this woman, she loves me. She's looking out for me. It's just like, are you that dumb? Are you that dumb? But apparently she is, because even at the reunion, she's still speaking up for the way that her quote unquote best friend is treating her. But apparently that is what Micah wants, because she did the same thing with Irina. So she has this thing where she doesn't have good judgment of character. It's like she has just low self-esteem, which I get it. She's not the most attractive person in the world. And so she surrounds herself with women that are uglier than her, that bully her. It's like she's seeking validation from these women, and these women are trying to validate themselves by putting her down, by shitting on her. It's like the most toxic type of woman or person, and that's how they're best friends. And it's because they're not really friends. They're both trying to make themselves feel better some type of way, but really it's just toxic. It's terrible. Brett and Tiffany, nothing to say about them. They're I don't know. I mean, yes, they're a very cute couple. I don't feel the same way that everybody does. Like, oh my God, like I'm rooting for them, but I didn't get the depth of their relationship, their character, their personalities were very generic, sterile for me, in a way that seems like insert normal person here, that's what they were. They were normal people. It was like they work well together. They seem like a good match, but I don't feel any unique characteristics about either of them that make me feel like, oh yes, they fit in the way that Bliss and Zach to me fit. So it's very difficult for me to, like, I'm happy for them, but I don't feel the same, like, oh my goodness, that I feel with Zach and Bliss, which is crazy because I didn't initially feel that in the pods with them, and that maybe just the way that it was edited. I was wondering why Bliss was like going back to this dude. I'm like, as weird as Zach is, why is she going back? But then as I got to see more of their personalities, I was like, oh, they just didn't capture that in the edits. They're both equally weird in the same way, and it's just very beautiful to see. Brett and Tiffany, I think that they are both normal fucking people. They're beautiful people. I think they make a beautiful couple. That's that. Shit, was there anybody else? No? Everybody left? Irina, she just is like Mean Girl, but it's because it's like she's never been anything worth having, I guess, or dealt with those self-esteem issues. And the moment she had a guy that was treating her right, all of her trauma came out. And it was just fucking toxic. And who was there to catch her? The Mean Girl best friend, Micah. She was able to kind of egg her on, add the fuel to her fire for her to get through this thing. But there's really nothing to speak on. Everybody else has spoke on it, but as far as like relationship advice and stuff like that, like I don't see it in any of these couples anymore than what I've already spoken about. So I don't really have much else to say about that. All right, y'all. I am really working through how I want to talk about the divorce journey that I have gone through, but I am struggling with making sure that I keep it classy. And when I say classy, I mean my level classy, which probably ain't classy to a lot of people that are actually classy. But yeah, again, this is the dynamic that I'm going to have to deal with for the next 16 years, but also just my daughter's father. I'm not looking to harm him or make anything. Yeah, I just don't want it to come off the wrong way. So I am really contemplating how I'm going to say it, if I'm going to say it. And if so, you'll hear about it very soon. But yeah, I just want you to know I'm just being very thoughtful about how I present that narrative to the world, because I know that once it's out there, it can't be taken back. And right now, all you guys know is ideas of the fact that it's been difficult, but not the actual true situations. And yeah, it might characterize a lot of people's view, and there are real people out there that actually really know me and know him, and so I want to be careful before I do that, if I do that. So anyways, I just wanted to come on here and chat about those few things, because it's just been stirring on my mind, and I want to get that shit out, and I want to say hey, because again, I'm feeling good. But anyways, as always, thank you guys so much for listening to me, chilling with me. If you're on social media, please check me out at is_Alexis. That's ISS_Alexis. No E, no I-double-S. And if you listen to podcasts, check me out anywhere podcasts are found at Lex Talk. That's LEXTLK. And I can't wait to see you guys in another video. All right, bye.